Welcome, new and returning listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. I am your host, Doug Blackshear, broadcasting to you live from the City of Diversity, Oakland, California. We continue to celebrate hashtag National Women's History Month, March 2023. We welcome our bi-weekly return segment, Victory's Corner, as she discusses approximately 1 hour as we get ready. And yes, as we get ready for the event this week in Lodi, California. A reminder, hashtag justice for, and that's FOR, Enzo, hashtag justice for Enzo, and at justice for, and that's FOR, Enzo. The husky tased and lynched in the streets. Can you believe that? Lynched. The dog lynched in the streets of Lodi, California. The peaceful protest march, virtual attendance details coming Friday evening via at Justice For, and that's FOR, Enzo, and our Facebook page at Art Blackshear, demanding justice for Enzo on April 1st at 1 p.m. Meet at the Arch in downtown Lodi on West Pine at Sacramento Street. As part of the protest march, they will lead to the Lodi Wine Festival as they are asking all to boycott Lodi wine nationally. Please share it. Hashtag boycott Lodi, hashtag Lodi California, hashtag Lodi wine, hashtag Lodi wines, hashtag Lodi winery, hashtag Lodi winery, hashtag Lodi wine country, hashtag Lodi wineries, hashtag Lodi wine tours, hashtag visit Lodi, and hashtag Lodi Wine Festival, known as well as Lodi Grape Festival. If you have any Lodi wine in your personal stock, call that winery and let them know you won't be purchasing any more unless their website supports Enzo. I want to give a shout out to my sister and longtime co-host this final week of Women's History Month, and she will return approximately the first week of June, our mental health expert. I saved that introduction, of course, for my co-host, Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. We miss you, girl. I hope you're having a great sabbatical and taking care of business. We know you are. We miss you, and we look forward to seeing you in June, and perhaps we make your return. Yes, the famous return, our anniversary show. Got to be our going into our third year of informing and educating people all across this country and in several other countries as well. So let's get started. Instagram at Victory4, and that's FOR, Oakland, at Justice For, and that's FOR, Enzo. Hashtag Victory4, and that's FOR, Oakland. Hashtag Justice For, and that's FOR, Enzo. Hashtag boycott Lodi. Our earnest thank you, as always, to Mr. Doni Glover of BlackUSA.News for the honor of the Black Business Roundtable being a part of your growing network dedicated to bringing the real unfiltered news before the news. Hashtag BlackUSA.News, hashtag Doni Glover on YouTube, Doni Glover. Today, March 30th, 2023, noted via the National Day calendar. Today is Today is National Virtual Vacation Day. Hashtag National Virtual Vacation Day. Reminding us all to relax, recharge, rejuvenate, no matter where you or we are. Thank you, National Day Calendar. At their website is nationaldaycalendar.com. Some current events in the news today. Later in the show, I will comment on the press conference that Madam District Attorney Pamela Price, yes, the first African American woman to be the DA in Alameda County, she has been under a barrage of attacks by people in the community who are not happy that the previous regime that has devastated the Black and brown brothers and sisters for decades is gone. So we want to make sure we let our audience know that we need to support Pamela Price, District Attorney of Alameda County, as she brings positive change in the judicial system that has devastated Black and brown boys and girls, men and women for decades in the Bay Area. So keep up the great work. We'll have more on that press conference in the weeks coming. Audience, I want to take a few moments here to mention once again that our women of color that have been duly elected are experiencing something that other elected officials, including other women, seem not to experience. Why is that? Why is the Black woman who's been elected, the Black women who have been elected, being targeted with death threats? Yes, with death threats, violence, etc. That is shameful. I know of several right now that are being blatantly threatened, harassed, and in need of additional security. Yet they are not deterred. I hate to mention names as that only gives attention to those seeking harassers, but no, I am gathering a coalition of women of color to discuss this and hope to have them all on the show in the very near future. So hang in there, sisters, and specifically sisters of color who are elected officials by their community and being harassed, threatened with violence, etc. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. This week's Black Business Roundtable thumbs up goes to Jamaal Bowman U.S. Congressman from New York, representing the 16th District, and shouted in the halls of Congress, "Cowards! You're all cowards." Congratulations, Jamaal, for pointing out that interesting fact. They won't do anything to save American children. More guns lead to more death. Look at the data. Say it even louder for the lobbyists in the back. Instagram at Jamaal Bowman NY. That stands for New York. Also, hashtag Jamaal Bowman New York. Congratulations, Jamaal, for receiving thumbs up from the Black Business Roundtable. That's Jamaal Bowman, U.S. Congressman from New York. Okay, thumbs down goes to this week's Black Business Roundtable. Thumbs down goes to who made the Black Business Roundtable Naughty List of 2023. This week it is once again, and Trump deserves this. It has been reported that they are moving to indict this heinous man for all the mischief and dastardly deeds that he continuously do and has done to take over this country. So this week's thumbs down goes to Trump. And we look forward to seeing you in our federal correctional institution soon, serving time for your 80 years of dastardly deeds, deceiving and destroying America. Don't receive the thumbs down in hashtag the town. Do better. You are welcome to come and talk with us about it and make it right. Hashtag BBRT Naughty List, hashtag BBRT Naughty List 2023. Today's show highlight, joining us today is Allyssa Victory with the latest segment of Victory's Corner as she educates us on two topics: eviction moratorium and reparations commission proposal and how they impact Bay Area and California. So let's get started as I give you the scoop right here from Oakland, California, on the Black Business Roundtable March 2023 segment. My show's guests today include Therapeutic Thursday. This week is replaced with an impromptu real talk with our friend of the show. I am her alternate delegate, Madam Pamela Price, of Alameda County DA press conference held today at 2 p.m. And as we receive the information, we will share it with you. We need to support Pamela Price as she moves this county forward in representation of all people. Allyssa Victory Esquire, a civil rights leader. Yes, civil rights leader, educator, and licensed attorney serving across the Bay Area and the state of California. Visit her website at Victory4, and that's F-O-R, Oakland, .wordpress.com. On Instagram at Victory4, and that's F-O-R, Oakland. And her hashtag is Victory4, F-O-R, Oakland. Now, for the national political highlight, another school shooting. What? Another one? My God, what is going on in America? Our kids, can you imagine what our kids are feeling right now? Another school shooting and more posturing, but no results, none. And the need for change, we want change. We need change, and we keep demanding change. But some reason our cries continue to fall on deaf ears. And many feel our hands are tied. However, there are more of us than there are of them. Yet we are failing ourselves by not voting them out. And I am a staunch believer in the power of our votes. So if you're not voting, don't complain. That means you're happy with the system as it is today, and it's not working for our kids who are going through school, whether it be kindergarten through college. Shame, shame, shame. And now for the news of the day. On this day, March 30th, 1961, Mississippi votes to use state funds for national campaign to preserve racial segregation, courtesy of EJI, Equal Justice Initiative. Visit their website at eji.org for more information and to read the full story of this day in our Black and Brown history. Visit their website as listed below. calendar.eji.org/racial injustice, March 30th. Hashtag Equal Justice Initiative. Therapeutic Thursday this week replaced with impromptu talk with myself talking about, once again, Madam DA, Pamela Price, and all the bullies and scoundrels out there who are trying to make it difficult for her to make a system that is fair and works for all people. 988 is the suicide and crisis lifeline and available 24/7, where you can text or chat. For women in our audience looking for a therapist, go to the website therapy4blackgirls.com. And men in our audience looking for a therapist, go to therapy4, and that's FOR, blackmen.org. Once again, for women in our audience who are looking for therapists, go to the website therapy4, and that's FOR, blackgirls.com. And for the men in our audience looking for a therapist, therapy4, and that's FOR, blackmen.org. Audience, we're going to welcome back today Allyssa Victory, who will be coming on shortly. But let's get down to brass knuckles and talk what issues that plague our women of color in their elected roles, whether it be councilwomen, mayors, women who are in Congress. We don't have any black women governors, unfortunately. We tried down here in Georgia, but once again, the powers at be who have done their best to tie the hands of elected black women, we need to start supporting wholeheartedly women of color. And they're just not black women. We have Asian women. We have women who are non-white. And let's be clear, America, we have a representative down in Georgia who talks treasonous with the previous president, Trump. And no one threatens her. No one harasses her. No one bullies her. We have Councilwoman Carol Fifes here in the Bay Area, in Oakland, California. I served on the executive committee of the NAACP Oakland branch in 2012 to 2018. And she is a staunch fighter for homeless people, housing, and for her to get the backlash, for her to receive these death threats from all sorts of people is shameful. It's shameful. Pamela Price has come in, a civil rights attorney, has come into, was elected by the Alameda County voters to bring in a new season of true justice that works for all people. And for those of you who do not know, district attorneys all across this country have for years had the power and the ability to make a fair justice system that works for all people, or a justice system that has broke the backs of people of color, women, men, and children. We have a district attorney in San Francisco, Brooke Jenkins, who is doing, from my understanding, a good job. And we also have one in Contra Costa named Diane Becton. We have 3 DAs in this Bay Area who are women of color, who have decided to champion and usher in a season of fairness, of equity, of diversity and inclusion, both in their offices and in the execution of their duties as it relates to bringing prosecution fairly to people who have been convicted and going through the judicial process. We have not had that in this country for centuries. As we all know, the DA in certain areas in this country have, in all areas of this country, have backed police for wrongful shootings, have incriminated Black and brown men and women unfairly, has not prosecuted many offenders of the law, depending on their proximity to the DA or the lobbyist who lobby DAs for unfair judicial processes and procedures. We in the Bay Area now must band together to support our women of color, and specifically in Oakland and Alameda County, Oakland, California, and Alameda County, California. Madam DA Pamela Price is being harassed, threatened. People in her office are resigning, and that might be a good thing, because when you have change, when you want to fix something, you can't fix it with the same mechanics that broke it. So for those of you who are leaving the DA's office for whatever reason, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Pamela, you keep doing a great job out there. We are looking in the near future to get all three district attorneys, Diane Beckton, Contra Costa District Attorney, Madam Diane Beckton, Madam Pamela Price in Alameda County, and also Madam Brooke Jenkins in San Francisco County. We understand they have very, very strenuous schedules right now, but our producer is working diligently so that we can get all 3 women on this show and let them share with us all across this city of Oakland, county of Alameda, Bay Area, state of California, and all across the United States, their groundbreaking ways of changing how fairness is implemented for all people who come and interact with the judicial systems that have devastated Black and brown men and women, boys and girls for, just say, centuries. In the Oakland, Alameda County, Bay Area, I graduated from Castlemont High School in Oakland, California. And there have been many, many young men who have been caught up, who I know personally, in the judicial system. And I'm going to share a story that should resonate with many people. I have a friend who got caught up, and he's a white guy, got caught up with several kilos of cocaine back in the 80s. And this young man, after being caught up in the judicial system, because he was white, he was able to serve his sentence in a halfway house, keep his job. Yes, did not serve a day of prison time. Now, I have many black friends who got caught up, whether it be the crack or the powder, who was mandated to serve a minimum of 10 years because of their color. Yes, 10 years plus. With less weight, less cocaine weight than the Caucasian, the white guy. It is shameful how this country has served justice as it relates to black people. And we're talking things that have changed people's lives. We're talking justice that was aimed at keeping black people enslaved. Because if in the past you had a criminal record, you couldn't vote, you couldn't live in certain areas, and a host of other things that kept you from getting good jobs and being a productive member of society. But the rules change as your complexion gets lighter and lighter. In America, just as my suit is black, my shirt is black, and my tie is black and white, we find an injustice in the justice system that has destroyed black families, has impoverished black families, has kept children from knowing their moms and dads, have allowed police to strangle the life out of citizens, supposedly black American citizens. That's what we're supposed to be, black American citizens. But the system has been designed to destroy the backs of blacks. And we finally are electing officials in our judicial system, in our legislation. We have a sister on the Supreme Court now. And we have Clarence Johnson, which we don't know who, and I don't think he knows who he is. But that's why I have kept surrounding myself with people who are familiar with civil rights, who can protect, once elected, our civil rights, who have fought gallantly for our civil rights, and who continues to fight for our civil rights. We have some of the best people in the world elected as our leaders. And once again, they're being threatened with their lives. Yes, threatened to be beat up, threatened to be harmed. This call goes out to everyone, and specifically black men. This is similar to what has been done in the past hundreds of years to our black women. What are we going to do to protect our black women? Are you going to stand down like cowards? Or are you going to stand up like the kings that we truly are, defending our sisters against this ugly, ugly barrage of attacks that continues against the black women who are elected right here in America? Stand up, black men. Don't be a coward. It's time that we support our black women, and we support them fiercely and with our lives, because many of mothers, aunties, grandmothers, it's shameful. Shame, shame, shame. And for those of you men who choose to cow down, like you had to hundreds of years ago, as many as 75 or 50 years ago, when white slave masters, yes, white slave masters would take our women for bed purposes, impregnate them, rape them, sell them. It's time for Black men, and not just in America, but in the world, to recognize we have to protect our Black women at all costs. We have got to protect our Black women at all costs. And on that note, I see we just have Allyssa Victory just showed up on stage, backstage. So let me introduce her and get her started, because every time she comes on this show, I feel like I just left a Harvard School of Law class. Audience, let's welcome back Allyssa Victory, Esquire, as she spends the... Hey, what's going on, my sister?
Hey, good to see you. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Welcome back, Allyssa Victory, as she spends the last Thursday of Women's History Month sharing her bi-weekly segment, Victory's Corner today. Allyssa Victory, Esquire, is a civil rights leader, an educator, a licensed attorney serving across the Bay Area and state of California. Allyssa holds a BA with honors in ethnic studies and minor in Black studies, as well as a JD concentrated in government law. Allyssa currently practices in policing and labor law and is an elected ADEMS 18 delegate to the California Democratic Party for Assembly District 18. Allyssa recently won another term for ADEM 18. Her Instagram is at Victory4Oakland, or visit her website, Victory4, and that's FOR, Oakland.com. Allyssa, can you please explain what the eviction moratorium actually is? And I'm going to just kind of slide in and out, because I want our audience to start getting very familiar with our Victory's Corner, and we want to start diligently pushing Allyssa Victory and her new agenda, and we won't even say new agenda, with her agenda on fair political practices. So when she is elected, we will have a landslide of votes backing this woman and her awesome journey, her young journey too, to become one of the leaders, not only in the city of Oakland, county of Alameda, state of California, but we want Allyssa to be known nationally as an educator, keeping our people in line and educated with why it is important to vote, who can vote, and how do you get voted in, and the legislation thereafter. So once again, Allyssa, welcome back, and I'll re-ask the question. Allyssa, can you please explain what the eviction moratorium actually is? Thank you, Allyssa.
Well, thank you, Doug. Again, happy Thursday. Thanks to everyone tuning in or who will watch later. This is Victory Corner, a bi-monthly segment, and I am Allyssa Victory. The eviction moratorium is definitely a topic that you all should have been hearing about for the last 3 years of COVID, especially if you're in California. It affects me very deeply and personally as someone who is a renter. And so I'll always be very clear about my own position and perspective that I approach these issues from. But the eviction moratorium, if you don't know, was started in California in 2020. The eviction moratorium is what it sounds like. If you know what moratorium means, it means a prohibition temporarily on any activity or conduct. Evictions is when you are evicted out of your house that you are paying rent for. You can be evicted for a lot of different reasons, depending on what state, what county, or what city you live in. There's different protections at all of those government levels. For renters, there's different rights for property owners to evict, and there's processes to evict. But we were in a pandemic, right? A global one, right? That we didn't know what it was. There wasn't a cure, still isn't. We didn't know yet if there was going to be vaccinations or any way to try to protect people or reduce the impact of catching COVID. Everything shut down, right? People weren't able to go into their workplaces. Certain professions had to stop completely. I have people in my family who were barbers, who were beauticians. They were not allowed to work under public health and safety laws during the pandemic when it first rolled out. And a lot of the state's work was to try to build those safety nets, knowing that people were getting sick, people were dying, people had to take time off to help people who were sick or to attend funerals and bury their loved ones. People's lives are forever changed based on impacts of COVID. Again, workplaces are forever changed, or some of them never reopened after closing during pandemic. And so our government tried to bring out safety nets to still maintain people and maintain our economy and our society while we were dealing with this crisis, and we still very much are. But the eviction moratorium said, hey, we want you all to pause evicting people out of their houses if they cannot pay their rent because of COVID. So I want to be very clear, the eviction moratorium has been tailored to period during pandemic for people who did not pay their rent due to COVID-related reasons for non-payment. So if you didn't pay your rent because you went on vacation and just decided not to pay it, that was not covered by the eviction moratorium. If you were doing illegal things, if you were doing things that violate housing laws overall, that violate the entire property rules, that was not covered by the eviction moratorium. Again, it was simply people who were losing their jobs, people who had to go on sick leave or who became disabled, who could not work because of COVID, and that affected their ability to pay rent. And so they said, we don't want you to evict people. And so what the state did to help maintain things, as they were saying, you can't evict, they said, we're going to offer 100% rent relief. That 100% rent relief, yes, you heard me correct, 100% rent relief was available from the state of California to tenants and also to landlords and owners. Anyone on either side could apply. You had to simply show that you had back owed rent that you were not paying because of COVID. There was 100% rent relief. I helped people apply. I helped property owners, I helped tenants apply for these state funds. And they did receive them. I will say a lot of them were delayed, had to go through a lot of the bureaucracy of getting their payments sent to them, getting the check actually in their hand. But again, this was the state recognizing people are unable to work. Businesses are shut down. This is a way to help mitigate a public health crisis. But we also don't want this crisis of people becoming homeless, losing their housing, losing their property. There was also a foreclosure moratorium, right? So that if we knew people weren't getting paid and they own these properties and they may depend on their tenants to be able to pay for their property, we didn't want people to lose their entire property because then the tenants and the owner would be without housing. There was payroll protection programs. If y'all remember, the PPP loans stands for Payroll Protection Program, that was giving money as a loan, which now they've been forgiven entirely. Those are for businesses to be able to pay their payroll, pay their workers, so that their workers weren't having zero income, so that businesses did not have to close and never reopen and go under during this pandemic. So I want people to understand that 3 years ago, we did not know what we were dealing with, how long we would be dealing with it, how many people were going to be affected, but we knew it was a public health emergency. Our state instituted moratoriums, but also released different funding programs and mechanisms to help stabilize businesses, homes, and renters like myself. And that was all state of California, but there's also federal programs. There's also county and city programs offering 100% rent relief, offering assistance for people who weren't able to work, Our state even expanded unemployment and changed the whole unemployment guidelines and said everybody's basically eligible for unemployment, regardless of if you've been paying into the fund. Again, independent contractors like barbers, beauticians, who are now barred from working, from opening shop and taking on customers because of health orders, they are now eligible to get regular weekly checks from the state's uninsurance compensation funds. So again, the state changed a lot of things to respond to the emergency, to try to build safety nets so that we would not completely lose our housing, our economic systems, and our community during these last few years. I want to pause there. I know I said a lot. Again, I remind y'all, I'm a renter. And even though these are the rights, again, I acknowledge the government was very slow. Not everybody knew what their rights are, and many people still don't. Many people still violated the law. I received an illegal eviction notice taped to my door during this pandemic. I'm an attorney, and it seems like people always love to go and try to do illegal stuff with lawyers. I don't really get that. But they tried to put an illegal eviction notice. And this was also during the time where my God's family was going through and having COVID, right? People being hospitalized, people being sick. Again, the very purpose of having a moratorium is so that families don't have crisis on top of crisis on top of crisis. And so this was happening in our own county with an attorney who was a renter. These property owners did not care what the law was and that it was illegal for them to be trying to evict or even putting this notice on a family's door while they were not paying rent due to COVID. And I have to just acknowledge that around 40% of Alameda County specifically is made up of renters. The city of Oakland, the city that I love, the city right behind me, is majority renters. And we had vast amount of people that were applying to the county for their rental assistance. And there's many people that are still waiting for their monies to be dispersed, for their process, for their applications to be processed. And so the bureaucracy has still caused some folks to get evicted, some people to lose their property, right, to lose their business and their employees, because the actual resources that were being made available have not always equitably gone to Black folks, to poor folks, and those that are most in need. And so the eviction moratorium, again, started at the start of pandemic, was designed to help stop some of the crises from compounding on top of the health emergencies that we were all experiencing.
Audience, now you see why we have Victory's Corner, because when she explains it, you understand. On that note, what is changing about the eviction moratorium, and whom is it? Whom does this affect the most? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as I said, this started as kind of emergency measures to upset the ability to evict, which is a regular proceeding for many reasons. But they said, we're going to pause all this because we can't take any more crisis, any more emergency. We understand people can't pay while they're going through sick and health issues. But that moratorium has already ended at the state level. It's already ended at the state level. You will see evictions going forward in other counties. If you're in LA County, there is a lot of data and reports talking about what's happened in the eviction courts and with renters now that the moratorium is lifted. But in Oakland, Oakland is a part of Alameda County, which is our county government. Our county is a part of the state. So even though the state's moratorium ended, Alameda County has continued. We continued. Our supervisors, who are the electeds that run our county, decided to extend it because they said there's still a lot of people who are unemployed, a lot of people who have died, a lot of people who are permanently sick and unable to work, who will become homeless and cannot afford to continue paying rent or back rent. The county itself had been providing emergency rental assistance through its ERAP program, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and providing some of the gaps for people who weren't getting that financial assistance or guidance from the state. But our county is now ending our eviction moratorium at the end of April, next month. That's going to affect renters. It's going to affect tenants. It's going to also affect those property owners. Again, I want to be clear to the owners and the managers, nothing has prevented you from evicting people for reasons other than non-payment of rent due to COVID. Again, if people aren't paying rent because they just want to be on vacation, that is, you're not there's no moratorium on evicting for that reason. If people are engaging in illegal activities, that is not barred by the eviction moratorium. But now the moratorium will be lifted. There's still going to be protections for those who did not pay during the time period that it was in effect. But still, there may be folks, again, who are disabled, who've lost their jobs, whose entire economy has changed or shifted because of COVID. And they may not go back to the same job or go back to making the same money to go back to paying that same rent. So this will affect folks. And as we've seen in other counties that have lifted the moratorium, like LA, there's what we call an eviction cliff, where you'll see 150% more filings of eviction cases. So we expect in the months right after the moratorium is lifted for courts to be flooded. Evictions do happen in the court of law. Self-help evictions, where you just kick somebody out and throw their stuff in the trash and change the locks, is actually against the law in California. Right, there is a process where you have to give people notice, opportunities to dispute, opportunities to show up in court. And I'll be real with y'all that in reality, most folks do not know their rights, do not have a lawyer when they show up in court, and are not likely to win their case, even if they're being illegally evicted. Right? A lot of folks, once you get that notice, it's the tenant that has to fight back. And if you don't respond in time, if you don't have money, if you don't speak English, if you don't know your rights, it is going to be an uphill battle. So I suggest that in this next month, tenants really understand what their rights are, what protections they'll continue to have, what protections they may have from their county or from their city. Oakland just passed an expansion of our just cause laws, meaning you have to have specific reasons to evict people. We're also in a homeless crisis in Oakland, right? I said this so many times, but we have a declared homeless emergency in the city of Oakland that we've been declaring for the last 5 years. And around 70% of the people who are homeless in the city of Oakland are Black, but our city is less than 30% Black. Again, we have around that same number of folks that have been seeking emergency rental assistance and these eviction moratorium protections. I am concerned that what we're going to see is Black tenants, not just all tenants, but Black tenants that are going to become homeless and add to that extremely disparate homeless population that we're already seeing. Oakland, out of all of the cities in the county of Alameda, has the largest percentage of renters. So Oakland as a whole is going to be hit hardest and have to deal with this. Our leadership is going to have to deal with this more than other cities that are also included within Alameda County, but have a smaller population of renters, meaning more people own their properties, have more stability if they're still owning after pandemic. So there's been discussions around having more education from the county, from the city leadership, providing financial assistance, providing things like legal defense assistance, because it is more likely you can win your case, especially against illegal evictions, if you have a right to a housing attorney. Most people can't afford one, don't know where to get one. There is no guarantee that you can have a lawyer, and many landlords and corporations that own property are represented and come into court with a lawyer. So I want people to understand that rollbacks on this moratorium will leave more people exposed. We expect to see racial disparity, income disparity in that. We expect it to fall harder on the city of Oakland within Alameda County. And I also want folks to understand that rolling back some of the protections also means they'll roll back expansions of Medicare. Also means they might roll back food security programs that were in partnership with food banks during the moratorium. So it's not just going to be housing safety nets that are being pulled away. It is food safety nets, or it's healthcare safety nets. And I am calling on our county, state, and local leaders to really have a plan of, now that this protection and this moratorium is ended, is the plan just to have a cliff where all of us are being fall out, let out, and dumped out? Or is there still going to be safety nets and actual compassion from our elected officials?
I'm going to go off script. Donnie Glover asked a question. He said, and we still have time to get the last two questions in. What do you think of Congress hearing regarding Starbucks and union efforts of employees to unionize and the shenanigans that they may be going on either side. Because we're only doing an hour show today, and I wanted to make sure that I got that question in because that is a good question. They being big white companies are trying to destroy union. So can you speak on that, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Starbucks is a really well-known name because it's one of the largest coffee corporations, companies, which means it's a large employer, right? It employs people throughout this entire country. It has international locations, right? It has drive-through, satellites, hybrid businesses, but just think about all the businesses that fall under the name of Starbucks. And then think why employees could benefit from unionizing, right? Unions ensure that there is pay equity between people of different genders, of different races. They ensure that you have an advocate if you are being treated unlawfully in any way. They have additional protections to make sure people are getting paid above minimum wage or bonuses or have things like healthcare, right, to cover them and their families, especially during a health crisis. So unions help workers, they're literal organizations of employees. And sadly, the status quo is many companies try to do what's called union busting, which they don't want employees to unionize at all. Once you're unionized, right, you are organized. You have a name, you have a charter, you may have a contract that then holds that employer accountable, helps set out what the workers are entitled to and how they will continue to be organized. A lot of employers put a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort into stopping employees from getting formally and officially organized into a union. They'll promise individual people things like, no, I'll just give you a pay raise. You don't need to organize around that. No, I'll just make this person a supervisor. You don't need to help your other coworkers get more benefits. And so those are kind of general remarks, but there will be a hearing with Congress from the CEO of Starbucks around some of its union activities, as many of its stores and employees are unionizing around this country, including in the city of Oakland. Please visit some Starbucks locations in Oakland. When you order, put your name as Union Yes, and they will know that you are supporting them. And it's also a passive way for the workers to say Union Yes, because sometimes they're prohibited and can even be retaliated from exercising their rights to organize, to fight for things like fair wages and equity. So I think it's great that this is coming in a hearing before the public. A lot of times it happens in private. A lot of times, again, there's backdoor deals where they'll talk to some of the employees to get them to turn on others. And that's all wrapped under the umbrella of union busting. And it happens less when you have more people putting eyes on them, when you have people asking questions, when you're calling out the behavior and trying to make the CEO explain, how is this not union busting? How is this protecting people's rights that are codified in federal, state, and local statutes to be able to unionize, to organize, or even just to petition for a union? Let's have a vote if not everybody in the workplace agrees. And so unions are all about supporting working class people, ensuring fairness in the workplace, more accountability and transparency. And oftentimes you'll see people do pretty much the opposite things to avoid getting to that spot. So I support unionization of Starbucks workers. I support them in Oakland and across this country. And I hope you all will tune in to hear what the CEO has to say, but also be mindful of it happening in workplaces elsewhere that may not be as popular and have all eyes on it like Starbucks, because there's many workers that struggle or suffer in silence, right? Without media attention, without Congress calling in their boss for a hearing.
And I'll ask these two questions, the last two questions simultaneously, because we're working with less than 5-6 minutes. What is reparations? What is the Reparations Commission, and who is on the commission? And the second question, what does the Reparation Commission's proposal consist of? Thank you.
Okay, I got 7 minutes to try to break down reparations for 400 plus years of oppression. Well, I've talked about reparations in other Victory Corner segments, so I encourage y'all to go back and see the conversation I'm kind of having prolonged with you all. There is a reparations task force at the state level that is run by California that has leaders throughout the state appointed to it. There's Reparations Commission that I've talked about in San Francisco. San Francisco is uniquely a city and a county, right? Oakland is a city. We're a part of a larger county, which is Alameda County. San Francisco is both because they're just that special. But San Francisco, as a county, has already set up its own county commission. They've already put forth their own proposals from their commission's work that is recommending things like cash payments of around $5 billion to Black San Franciscans. So I want folks to be clear, this is happening at multiple levels of government because there's been so much harm against Black Americans from each of those levels, right? There's unique harms that San Francisco Black residents faced at San Francisco government's hands. There's unique harms that Alameda County residents face because of Alameda County's electeds. And we've all been harmed by state actors, and that's why there's a state task force on reparations. And they're all going to be compounded because all the harm and oppression has been compounded. And so one really exciting thing that happened this week in Alameda County, which includes the great city of Oakland and many other cities, is that our county board of supervisors voted to create their own county level commission for reparations. Now, they had brought it up and had readings. It's a official government process of getting this adopted, and there was a lot of negative public comment. A lot of people in the county said, why do we need to spend time on Black folks? Why do we need to give stuff out to Black people? Again, reparations is repair for the documented, the established harm. And so the supervisors twice, in 2011 and in 2020, issued apologies for the county's harm to Black folks here. Issuing apologies is nice, but actions are better, right? So reparations is now talking about what things would be required for the county to do to actually repair the harm that they have documented, that they have issued formal apologies for. And that proposal to create the commission passed. So the commission will be set up. The commission, in the guidelines that the supervisors adopted, is that it's going to consist of 10 to 15 members. There's different types of commission seats. People have to be formally incarcerated, have to reflect diversity, have to be, varied in age. Again, we want all Black folks to kind of be reflected in coming up with the specifics of what reparations looks like for Alameda County. And so the county has initiated this commission. Through the text of the resolution they adopted, they should come with recommendations by July 1 of this year. That's a pretty tall order to talk about all the county's harm and reparations in a couple months. And so people who live here, we should expect to see commissioner seats opening up to get appointed by the supervisors, and then commissions holding public meetings to have these deep discussions in the same way that we see the task force going around the state, holding public meetings, getting comments, meeting with experts, meeting with people who've been harmed to assess what should the reparations look like. The county has already said, and I just want to be clear to echo their words, and this is from their reports, that there will be 5 areas that they'll consider as types of reparations: compensatory, restitution, rehabilitative, non-repetitive, meaning one time, and then satisfactory. And so they have kind of different metrics for those 5 areas. I'm very excited. Right, I'm excited to see this happening at all levels, but especially in my home county. I've still said City of Oakland needs its own city level reparations commission and proposal because the city itself has some documented harms. I shout out Carol Fife, who's pushed for the Black New Deal legislation around this, especially in housing and all of the housing injustice that Black residents have faced, which brings us to the context around eviction moratoriums and renters and what risk we are facing when that ends. So reparations, again, can be part of addressing all of the housing crisis we've seen during the last 3 years of eviction moratorium, can help to address the fact that 70% of Oakland's homeless population is Black, but we're less than 30% of the city's population. So I'm excited. Reparations will continue to push this conversation forward, can continue to educate people, even Black people, about the history of our cities, of our county, not some place in the deep South or some bad actors decades away, but things that are happening right now, things that have happened in my lifetime, in my parents' lifetime, in my grandparents' lifetime, right? And us really being unapologetic and having this conversation at so many levels I'm really happy to see it come to Alameda County.
On that note, we have less than 30 seconds. Allyssa, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Keep up with Allyssa Victory Esquire via her website at Victory4, and that's FOR Oakland, and it's Victory4 FOR Oakland.wordpress.com, Instagram at Victory4 Oakland, and hashtag Victory4 Oakland, and both are FOR for Oakland. Thank you, Allyssa. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for that outstanding breakdown of what's going on in our community.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your March. Thank you so much to Black Business Roundtable. Always enjoy having conversation with y'all.
Thank you. We'll see you next time. Audience, let's be clear here. Thank you for joining us here today. We return Thursday with Brother Marcus Flowers of Georgia of the New Mission Democracy. We look forward to seeing you every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the BlackUSA.News Network on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you, audience, for tuning in. And remember, together, we can listen, we can learn, and we can share, because I know you care. I know you care. Girl, this has been an amazing show.